now start.
Hi, my name is Chez'lene.
My name's Cody.
I'm Jake.
I'm Alexis.
And we will be presenting to you today about Mesopotamia, the birthplace of all civilizations. This is where we're going to place our documentary. And we're going to begin with Jake on writing.
So I researched writing for Mesopotamia, and it is actually one of the biggest factors of Mesopotamia. Only the smartest of the smartest people could read and write, and they were called scribes. And the writing is very complex, and in some forms of the writing, most of the letters were very similar, like how our letters B and D look alike. They're just the same letter but flipped. But in these cases, the similarities between the letters are to a whole next level. So the first thing I'll show you is a video on the writing.
My grandfather says that in the old days, nobody knew how to write. Writing started when my ancestors needed a way to keep records on what happened from year to year. Like how much grain each farmer had grown, and how much different people got as their shares, and how many sheep and cattle they had, how many animals died, and how many were born, and how much of everything was given to the gods. We started out by drawing little pictures that represented words. Like this picture, it represented a star. Well, over time, people started writing faster, and the picture of the star changed to this, and eventually this. Now,
This is our activity, and you have to translate the letters X and J into cuneiform. And the first person to translate these gets a pack of Milky Way Bibles. I can't know they could do.
Pronounce it correct.
Y'all sit down? Right, y'all need to sit down. Go back. What you doing? Here, come back on.
I'm gonna try it.
Alright, so this is a clay tablet that scribes wrote in. So this is a clay tablet that scribes wrote in, and it started out with just wet clay, and they used a reed implement to write in it, and then later the clay would harden. So it's like if you have a lot of cement that you just put down, and you put your hand in it and write your name around it, and it hardens, and your hand is still in there. That's how this is. These are pictures of pictograms, and pictograms are the earliest form of cuneiform writing, and they're what cuneiform is based all around. And then there's stuff about cuneiform in general, and cuneiform was created over 5,000 years ago, and it has only scribes recording daily events, and that's what you saw in the video earlier. These are pictures of cuneiform. This is the form that you guys just wrote the X and J in. And this form is the same kind, but it's just a little more modern. Next is climate, and first is summers and winters. Summers are hot and dry, and winters are cool and wet, and those are very similar to our seasons right now. This is a picture of Mesopotamian mountains, and the winter mountains can get up to 50 to 60 degrees and as low as 15 degrees Fahrenheit. This is Mesopotamian summer. Summers are 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're always like that usually because there's not that big difference in air and wind. These are charts of temperature and precipitation. Right here you can see that the average temperature is usually around 45 and gets as high as 100 degrees. And that's right around what ours is, it's not too much different. But then the extreme low and the extreme high are 25 to 120 degrees. In the last picture I showed you, I said that winters can get as low as 15 degrees. That is only in very, very extreme conditions. And then on the precipitation side, you see mostly rain, and it looks like there's no snow in Mesopotamia, but there's a little, it's just not as big or not as much to keep your records up. This is a bigger graph, and it shows the bigger breakup of climate of Mesopotamia. You can see that humidity is usually around 45 or 50% in the morning and daytime. And then the average wind speed is usually no more or less than about 6 miles per hour. Over here you can see the plains, and the plains get usually 200 millimeters of rain each year, and that equals out to about 8 inches of rain. And then in the deserts, this is more modern day deserts of Mesopotamia. But Mesopotamia used to be mostly floods and is now hot and sandy. And then in the fertile lands by the rivers, they had crops such as wheat, fruits, and vegetables. Now is Alexis with geography.
We'll start with the features of geography with the rivers. We'll start with the Tigris River, which is, well, the Tigris and Euphrates are considered exotic rivers, which means they flow across humid regions and then flow across dry areas. Both rivers begin in the mountains of Asia Minor and flow to the Persian Gulf. The Tigris and its tributaries roughly comprise modern Iraq and part of Syria. The Euphrates River, the longest river in Southwest Asia. It is one of the two main constituents of the Tigris and Euphrates river system. The Zagros Mountains. The Zagros Mountains can be found in western Iran and separate the alluvial plains of Syria and Babylonia from the Iranian highlands. The Taurus Mountains. The Taurus Mountains are a mountain complex in southern Turkey from which the Euphrates and Tigris descend into Iraq. The Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent extends from the Persian Gulf all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. On to religion and food.
This is a picture of a ziggurat, and as you can see, the citizens are going up to the ziggurat to leave offerings. Ziggurats were large structures, and they were the largest and tallest in the city, and they were all located in the center of the town. Citizens were prohibited to enter. Only priests and their wives were allowed to enter because they are considered the closest to the gods. Citizens were allowed to go up to the ziggurat to leave offerings so that they could be in the gods' favor. They thought that the taller the ziggurat was, the closer it was to the gods. Mesopotamians were polytheistic, and they believed that different gods represented different things. Some common gods include Enlil, the air god, Enki, the god of freshwater and wisdom, Utu, the sun god, and Ishtar, the goddess of love and warmth. They believed that demons were created by gods and could be good or bad. They believed the gods lived in the sky, and they used their religion as a way to explain uncertainty. They believed that the underworld is where the souls go, and Dilmun is a paradise for the immortal. The Neo-Assyrian Empire was the most dominant power and the largest empire the world had ever seen. It conquered many empires and spread its culture and religion afar. It spread from Cyprus in the west to central Iran in the east, and from the Caucasus Mountains in the north to Nubia, Arabia, and Egypt in the south. And now on to Alexis with government.
Let's start with King Hammurabi. King Hammurabi was the sixth king of the Hammurabi First Dynasty. He was an important Babylonian king, best known for writing the early 282 law books. Sargon the Great, also known as Sargon of Akkad. He reigned in Mesopotamia from 2334 to 2279 BCE. He fought and defeated all the city-states of Sumer. The laws of Mesopotamia and Babylonia were well known because everyone had knew them, but the people who were new to Babylonia and Sumer had to learn, follow, and obey all the law codes. A person cannot be convicted unless there was clear evidence of his or her guilt, which was based on the first law, eye for an eye, laws. There were kings and nobles who made laws and declared and decided how they would honor their gods. There was an assembly of people who could overturn.
Unhappy economy, and part of the stuff they grew was wheat, barley, figs, grapes, melons, and a lot more. They also raised farm and animals. The social pyramid it started off with a king, then it went down to priests, scribes, merchants, commoners, and then slaves. Part of their currency was silver rings and coins. They also bartered and traded, and bartered was their favorite thing to do.
And lastly, I have culture. I'm going to begin with literature. And the Epic of Gilgamesh was considered the world's first great piece of literature. The first copy dates back to the 18th century BCE, and few copies of those have survived. The standard versions, however, date back to the 13th to the 10th century, and 2/3 of those have been recovered. And these are pictures of the Epic of Gilgamesh. This is a video explaining what happens in the epic poem.
Plug the white cord in.
Still not working.
Try the other thing, plug in the outside. Is it plugged into the right side?
Yeah, it's not about to work.
When I entered the house of dust, on every side the crowns of kings were heaped. After 12 long days, Enkidu falls silent. Gilgamesh laments the loss of his friend and determines not to share his fate. He learns of an ancient being, the only man to gain immortality, and once again he sets out from Uruk. His first destination is Mount Marshu, which guards the rising and the setting of the sun. Upon his arrival, Gilgamesh encounters two gigantic scorpions. They laugh at him and tell him his quest is futile, but still they allow him to pass. Beyond Mount Marshu is the land of night, a dark, jagged tunnel that the sun travels through each night. Gilgamesh travels 11 leagues before the light begins to glimmer behind him. Just as the sun is about to catch up, Gilgamesh emerges from the tunnel into a paradigm.
For arts and crafts, Mesopotamia is the source of the earliest remaining art dating back to 35,000 BCE. They are made from natural resources such as stone, shells, alabaster, and marble. They made jewelry, small instruments, small statues, musical instruments, and chairs. Pottery was what they did best, and they used that as a trading system to trade for food and other items. This is an example of some of the creations that Mesopotamia made. For recreation, they had a variety of festivals, ceremonies, and traditions. Birth and marriage were usually celebrated with a banquet, dancing, and music. They also participated in lion hunting, in which a lion was attacked by dogs, beaten with sticks, and then driven to the king where it would kill it with a bow or spear. This is an example of one of the games that Mesopotamia played. For fashion, early Sumerian men wore waistcloths or small loincloths until the wraparound skirt was introduced. Clothes were decorated with fringe, and early Sumerian women only wore shawls until sewn outfits were introduced. By 2000 BCE, women and men both wore skirts and shawls and were covered from head to toe. Assyrians continued with this type of fashion until men began to wear knee-length tunics on short sleeves. By 612 BCE, they were conquered by the Persian Empire, and that was when trousers were implemented into the Assyrian wardrobe. For food, they ate barley, bread, onions, dates, fruit, fish, fowls, honey, meat, and milk. They usually ate about 2 meals a day, and everyone except for the rich ate unleavened bread. Pork was eaten in Ur until about 24,000 BCE, and then it became taboo. They also ate types of meat like stag, gazelle, lamb, mutton, and squaw. And for fruits, they ate apples, grapes, pigs, figs, apricots, and mulberries. And the oldest recipe that they have dates back to the 22,000 BC. And this was some of the foods that they made back then. In conclusion, Mesopotamia was the very first civilization to record events and data in writing.
And it had the beginning of the empires in the world of all civilizations.
It created the social distinction.
You created the Western